So this came out just 3 hours ago. Texas Senate approves new congressional lines as House Democrats remain out of state. The Texas Senate approved new congressional lines on Tuesday in a rare mid-decade redistricting effort that could aid Republicans in their effort to keep control of the U.S. House of Representatives after the 2026 election. The vote was 19-2, with 9 Democrats absent after exiting the Senate floor moments after the maps were taken up, a show of protest against what they framed as a corrupt process. This mid-decade redistricting isn't about fair representation. It's about politicians picking their votes instead of voters choosing their leaders, the Senate Democratic Caucus said in a statement. And it doesn't stop here. If they can gerrymander now, they can and will do it before every election. That's what I was literally about to say, is like, if they do this now, if they even do this one time now, in every single state, moving forward immediately, all of these Democratic states should be saying, all right, guys, before 2026, redistrict and gerrymander it all for our purposes, right? The idea that we need to not pretend that you have to hide the ball and have some level of plausible deniability to your cynical political redistricting has completely gone out the window. And now you have to acknowledge that, right? I'm terrified at the idea that the rules have changed for the Republicans, but not the Democrats. That the Republicans are going to keep doing this sort of bullshit. They're going to redistrict all sorts of states. They're going to politically gerrymander these places, and that the Democrats are not really going to respond in step, right? They might, like in a couple of spots around the edges, maybe sort of respond in a similar way, but I'm worried that the bulk of the Democratic body is just like so stuck in mud. They're so stuck like 30 years in the past with how procedures and how the government is quote unquote supposed to work, that they are just so antithetical to the idea of the rules changing and taking advantage of that, taking this metagame perspective, that they're just going to get walked all over the next decade or so. I'm terrified at the idea of that because they're a bunch of pussies. The exit wasn't enough to deny a quorum, as their counterparts have done in the Texas House. Dozens of Democrats in the lower chamber have decamped to Illinois and other parts of the country, bringing work in the House to a halt for a second week as the chamber continued to lack the minimum headcount needed to conduct business. Senate-approved map now heads to the House, which must approve the lines. So far, the Democrats' absence has stalled the effort. On Tuesday, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and House Speaker Dustin Burrows said they would adjourn for the session if the lower chamber continued to lack a quorum on Friday. Governor Greg Abbott said he would immediately call a second special session with the same agenda, while teasing the possibility of adding more items. Yeah, my understanding was the first special session was supposed to be about the weed bill that they didn't pass, that got to Greg Abbott's desk, but that he vetoed at the very last second because he didn't like the wording of it or something. My understanding was the original purpose of this special session was he basically was like, guys, I don't like how this THC ban bill is written. I want you guys to reword it, and then in a month from now, we're going to do a special session and actually get it properly passed. But it seems like they've co-opted the purpose of this special session for this political gerrymandering that Trump has imposed upon it. Texas Republicans began to push for new political boundaries after President Donald Trump's team insisted state lawmakers who were initially wary take up an opportunity to gain more GOP seats in Congress. The Senate-approved map is identical to the initial draft introduced in the House. After the proposal was approved by a House committee, Democrats in the lower chamber left the state, depriving the chamber of the required number of lawmakers to pass legislation. The so-called quorum break stalled the map from passing the full House. Democrats in other states, including California Governor Gavin Newsom and New York Governor Kathy Hochul, have also promised their own retaliatory redistricting if Texas passes the new map. Republicans in Texas have taken an offensive stance on the quorum break, with Burrows signaling civil arrest warrants for the missing Democrats. Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton have also requested that some members be expelled from their seats by the state Supreme Court. Missing members are also facing $500 a day fines for their absence. If they are successful in expelling certain Democratic members of the Texas House because they did this whole quorum thing, then the rules of how quorums are handled moving forward has changed, right? And that from that point on, anytime a Republican in a Democratic-controlled state tries to break quorum, that you can kick them off of the legislature. In crafting new districts that would likely elect Republican representatives, the proposed map could also pit incumbent Democratic representatives against one another in some districts or risk them losing their seats in others. Under the new map, areas represented by progressive representatives Greg Cesar and Lloyd Doggett would both be under the new District 37 currently held by Doggett. Okay, so it appears based on this article that the quorum is still on, that the quorum break is still on, and that that this is the redistricting map unsurprisingly passed the Senate, the Texas Senate, but it hasn't passed the Texas House. I just wonder if, because this article points out the last time that the Democrats broke quorum in Texas was about 4 years ago. And as a response, they broke the quorum for a special session. And as a result, Greg Abbott or whoever was the governor at the time just called for another special session. By which that time the quorum break had sort of dissolved and they were able to get a full quorum and get the legislation they wanted to get passed. I wonder if with Trump in office and with this whole sort of new Republican ethos that we've seen over the last few years, that they're going to take a more aggressive stance against the House Democrats and actually try and do something crazy like kick them off, remove their representative status and kick them out of the House or whatever. I'm just wondering if maybe they're going to try and take that next step and do that instead of just waiting until the next special session. I imagine that waiting until the next special session is probably just going to work like it did last time, and that ultimately this whole effort by the Democrat members of the Texas House is just a stalling effort, and that it will eventually get passed. It will likely eventually get passed through, whether it be now or a month from now or 6 months from now. But that doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. It's still absolutely something worth doing. And yeah, so we'll just see where this ends up over the next couple of weeks, couple of months.